Hello, Gerardo.
It's so nice to see you,
Nice to see
Tessa.
you too. I'm so sorry
How are
about
you?
the time problem.
No, it's just fine. I think the Central and Eastern Standard is the issue, and I am closer to the east in
Oh, I
Ohio.
see. Okay.
Chicago would be Central Time, which
Oh,
is
I see.
just 6 hours away.
Okay, just 6 hours.
Yes. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you? How are things down there in Cleveland?
They are very well. I
Mm.
am keeping myself very busy
Mm.
with my work. I am up early, very early in the morning,
Mm.
and by let's say 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, I am finished with the Beethoven sonata.
Wow. So you're an
And
early bird.
I am early to bed, early to rise
Okay.
lately, out of necessity because I also teach and
Oh, I
I
see.
have to meet with students.
Mm.
Today is an easier day. I met with a couple of students in the morning. Then I had another interview in at noon, and then I could rest a little bit.
Mm.
And here we are. And then
Great.
immediately after this, I teach more.
Oh,
I
I
have another
see.
couple of
Okay.
students later.
But it's wonderful that you teach, and also in this time, do you teach on Zoom, or how do you see your students?
Yes, mostly on Zoom. I have many students who are preparing for competitions and auditions, and occasionally I have to go to my school, Cleveland Institute of Music, which is has a wonderful concert hall and recording facilities, and I sit and listen to them in the concert hall as they
Okay.
prepare for auditions and recording sessions.
Mm.
Uh, Other than that, because my schedule is difficult, I uh, I have to drive for a number of minutes to get there, and I have students in between, and it is best if we keep things organized in one place. So for now, soon, hopefully this summer we will begin. I will begin to teach in person when most of us will be vaccinated.
Oh yes, yes. And tell me, how did the lockdown affect you in your with your performances, and did you have many canceled projects in that time?
Well,
Last year, I'm talking about
it,
last year, yeah.
yes. Imagine it feels like an eternity. Um, I was preparing for many concerts and projects in celebration of Beethoven's
Mm.
250th birthday. And actually, that included a recital in Vienna.
Oh, okay.
I was going to play in Vienna uh, the last three Beethoven sonatas uh, last summer. And obviously, that had to be canceled early on. It was things began to turn for the worse in very early March, as you probably know.
Yeah.
I had just finished being a juror in a competition, and I had to drive an hour, 2 hours from Cleveland for this. And when I returned home, I read all the news and just barely made it in time to go on lockdown. At the time, I'd have already played Beethoven sonatas at the beginning of the year. Played a recital at the local church in January, and that was very well attended because we had no idea what was coming.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then I had this event in early March, and then we entered the lockdown. But I was scheduled to play on my birthday last year, the Choral Fantasy in Texas. which is far away on the southwest. And that was a very dear project to me because I was looking forward to playing with the multinational chorus, uh, people from Mexico and the United States together. There were going to be 450 people on stage.
Oh, wow.
Because
Amazing.
it takes a chorus, and
Yeah.
to make things more special, it was going to take place on my birthday.
Oh,
And I was in the middle of preparing for this concert, and praying that things would get better. And then eventually, finally got the call that the concert had to be canceled. And I was heartbroken, but I was very concerned, obviously, for what was happening at the same time. And I felt it was the right decision. And yeah, that hurt. That hurt a great deal because we were celebrating Beethoven. I don't know if you're familiar with the choral fantasy. It's for piano, orchestra, and chorus. And it is, Beethoven's music is precisely what has kept me going.
Really?
All through this past year and a half. Beethoven's music it represents, in my view, and I think in the view of many others, the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. And this work begins turbulently and it ends triumphantly with a call for love and peace and everything that's good. And I was so excited to do it, and to celebrate my birthday that way would have been wonderful.
Yes.
But it did not happen. It will happen in the future. And
when is your birthday?
My birthday is this coming Monday.
Oh, okay.
The 29th.
29th. Okay.
29th.
Yeah.
And so my birthday came. I celebrated indoors with no one, just lots of calls and cards and greetings from all over the world, and friends like this. We began to communicate through the internet, and that was wonderful. And one by one, all my summer festivals were canceled and postponed, one after the other, little by little. Then some went virtual, actually two of them.
Okay.
One in Colorado and one in Germany. And we were very successful. By the time summer came around, we were able to gather with students and colleagues from all over the world. And we presented ourselves in concert, and we worked with wonderful students, and we're very successful. I did make, at the beginning, I felt it was important for me to be equipped to deal with this situation. So I found a fantastic microphone and equipment, and I set my home office, so to speak, with my piano. I'm actually sitting right next to it. Okay, and improve my internet connection to very high speed, and I'm able to listen to my students very, very well. And not only that, I can see them from a different perspective, because when I illustrate for them a piece of music, how to approach the keyboard, I am now able to actually see myself and seeing my hands, because we have the screen with the student, and then I can see myself as well playing. And in that way, I am able to describe to them very easily what I am doing. So it is a different perspective. There's no question that listening to someone play live, you have that energy
Oh, yes.
that music is able to give. It's a physical energy.
Mm.
You know, when you go to a live concert and that sound, those sound waves come to you and they go through you into your body and your mind and your heart.
Yeah.
There's nothing that matches that.
Mm. Yeah,
But
everybody says that, you know, that's even though they do recordings and things like that, they really miss that part, you know, of the audience being there. But I would like to ask you about the teaching also, because I spoke to a ballet teacher and she said actually the same thing, where she said she enjoyed, well, of course, you know, everybody wants the one-to-one and the person there, but she said that she did find in with the Zoom teaching also positive things, that it was not, you know, just difficulties or negative, but there were definitely positive things. And it's interesting that you say now as well that you also found some positive aspects of the teaching online.
yeah, well, you know, it's interesting that you should mention this because when I was a student in conservatory, I actually worked with dancers. I
Oh,
played
really?
for a local ballet
Oh.
company
Mm.
and I played rehearsals and we performed together as well. And so I know a great deal about the dance world
Mm.
and the classical ballet. I love the music. I play the music. And it is a very physical art, as you
Mm.
know. And I cannot imagine, you know, what they must be going through. Uh, but in Cleveland, we have a wonderful company, Cleveland Ballet,
Mm.
which is directed by a compatriot of mine. And she has managed to continue performing outdoors, uh,
Oh,
given
okay.
good
Yeah.
weather,
Mm.
and continue to be active in the studio with following the protocols for social distancing. And she, ballet uh, masters are very creative artists, and so she has worked that way to continue the work that she does. But remembering my days as a ballet uh, musician, I how the ballet master needs to take the arm of the
Yes. Mm.
ballerina or the dancer and
Mm.
shape the wrist, shape the elbow into the right position for a
Mm.
beautiful visual impact.
Mm.
So I imagine how difficult it must be for some
Yeah.
of them at
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah. Now I try to speak to a lot of dancers, because I think we don't always realize what they also go through, you know, and of course the fact that their bodies are their instruments really,
Exactly.
and that they can't move. Yeah. But I find teachers and like yourself as well, uh, I think you have such a great importance at these times for the young students to keep them motivated, and of course to lead, and I find that with everybody, and even all the students that I photographed, um, it's almost as if there's always a teacher, there's always somebody. Even if the young artists that I had interviews with, they always tell me that there's a teacher or somebody motivate them. And I think, really, it's such an important time also for the teachers.
It's extremely important to inspire and at the same time that you guide and instill discipline in your students. Uh, I have three role models in my work as a musician. Pablo Casals, the great Spanish cellist, who actually lived the last 30 years of his life in Puerto Rico, where I was born, and married a Puerto Rican woman, Marta Casals, who is still with us. Maria Callas, as a singer, a vocalist, with her passion and her determination to perfection. And no, the third one is Dorothy Delay, the great violin teacher at the Juilliard School in New York, whose students are members and concertmasters of the world's great orchestras. Itzhak Perlman was one of her students. And they all have something in common, the ability to persevere, the ability to be patient. And with Pablo Casals in particular, he always spoke about work. I am always working. I get up in the morning, and this is Pablo Casals speaking. I get up in the morning and I go to the piano, I play my Bach prelude and fugue, and then I go to the cello and I work. And we must all work every day for a better world. He was a wonderful human being. He called himself, I am a man first and an artist second. And my purpose in life is to help humankind. And if I can do that through music, then that is a wonderful gift that God gave me. So this was Pablo Casals.
Yeah.
And through music, we reflect our own values. Work, hard work, and continuing to serve a higher purpose. And that should be inspiration for everyone. No, it doesn't matter if it's not music. Any craft, any art, any profession. Always working to do something better and to contribute something greater than yourself. Right?
That's true. Yes. No, that's true. But I think that comes with doing art. I think it's part of what you are doing because it is it's for me. I think I see the artist almost as selfless in a way. You know, if I see all the work and the sacrifice that goes into pursuing this career and this art and doing this art, this was my idea that I got as I spoken to so many artists and saw what they sacrifice to be able to be the musician or to be the dancer or the painter or so that was I think definitely it's part of the artist.
Well, that is why Beethoven's music really speaks to the heart of the musician and to the audience that listens to his music. Because Beethoven had tremendous determination and he overcame, as you know, deafness.
Yeah.
Imagine not being able to hear your own music. And still in the end of his life, he wrote his greatest masterpieces. He was completely deaf. Yet he continued and he left a legacy for everyone else. And he knew he was going to leave a great legacy. There's no question in my mind about that. When I was in Vienna last, that was almost 3 years ago, I visited Heiligenstadt, where Beethoven spent many months, and where is the Beethoven house. and you read the Heiligenstadt Testament, and you see at that time when he wrote it, he was quite desperate. He had problems with his nephew. He had financial issues. He was outcast by the Viennese society because he was rather unruly. he was a messy character, and very, very temperamental, and he was suffering. But there was always in his writing a message of hope for the future. He never gave up on anything, especially his work. And you know, I talk to my students about it. In fact, I traveled with a student of mine, took him to Heiligenstadt and showed him there is your inspiration. And isn't it interesting that someone born in a tropical island like me, of a Latin culture and background, is so much in a Beethoven fan.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. But what
you know, I am very European in upbringing. It obviously in Puerto Rico we were raised with the Spanish culture.
Yeah.
And my family comes from France. I have French background, even though I was born and raised speaking Spanish. But I was always drawn to that part of the world. And the first opportunity I had to travel to Europe, it was Germany and Austria.
Really?
And when I began college, at the same time I began studies at university together with conservatory in music. It was German that I chose to learn. Really? And by the end of the first year, we were reading Rilke novels, and I was really doing very well. And I had obviously being born in a bilingual society, because we speak English as well in Puerto Rico. I had an aptitude for languages. So now I speak 5, and just the other day I began to learn Russian.
My goodness, that's not an easy language.
It's not going to be easy because I don't have the opportunity to practice the language really well. But you know, it's frustrating when I am watching a video in Russian of a wonderful pianist being interviewed, or a musician, a video of a teacher giving a master class, and I want to learn so much. The Russian School of Piano Playing is such a great school, and I want to be able to understand the language. So I began using a digital app on my phone, and believe it or not, by the end of the first hour, I was already having a conversation with myself.
Really? Wow. Yeah, but it's
the problem is 2 hours later, I had completely forgotten it.
Oh, I see. But I think because you know so many languages, then already it's easy for you to learn more. So was this what you were doing also in lockdown? Because I always ask artists what they did in lockdown in the time, apart from practicing.
Well, you know, music is my life. I wake up to music. I go to the piano and I work. Then I listen to recordings of students who need to be evaluated. Then I teach them.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I am not teaching or practicing my instrument, I am listening to others play the music. Always music. I have no time for anything else, but I do make it. And so I love to read biography. because I'm always interested in people, what the lives of the great musicians and the great composers was. And I purchased Alan Walker's a Chopin biography because I'm playing a lot of Chopin lately.
Mm.
And I purchased, of course, the Beethoven biography. I read the diary, I read biographies because I was the time I was studying his music. So reading about music was another thing I did. And more recently, trying to improve my languages.
Oh.
I think learning as many languages as possible. If you would like me to give advice to young artists and young musicians who may listen to this, learn as many languages as you can.
Mm.
The first languages in music are French, German, and Italian. Those are the most important languages to study, especially for singers, vocalists. Then you have others. You have Spanish, you have Russian. But at least learn one or two other languages other than your own. Because not only music I like to say music is ultimately about people.
Yeah.
Through music, we express the composer's personality, the composer's ideas, the composer's emotions, right? And we communicate those to others. So it is only natural. And of course, we know that music is called a language that transcends cultural barriers of all sorts. But learning a foreign language is so important to a musician. I don't see it any other way.
That's very good advice that you're giving. And on this note that we're talking about this about learning, I would like your opinion about the education at how it is at the moment, where art is not taught as a main subject. And this is something that I talk to everybody about, because I'm thinking that it's time also in this pandemic where we highlight these things, and where many artists feel not valued, or they feel that art is not a priority for many governments and for schools, for example. What is the situation there, for example, because I hear many different opinions about the school system. So, for example, in Texas, I hear there are many schools who do a lot for music, but I'm thinking that shouldn't we redesign the education system, that we say art should be taught alongside maths and science in schools?
The United States is a very varied country. We are very large, and we have many states with their own cultural identity, and we also have many similarities. And my experience with friends across this country has been always that there has been a struggle to make the arts more important to the communities. The emphasis is on educating students so they can go to the most exclusive and the best universities and colleges in the country or in the world. I feel the government we have a new president every 4 or 8 years, depending on which decade. And it is up to the government, the leaders of government, to, at the very least, inspire the citizens of a particular country, to motivate them to learn to appreciate the arts more. I grew up, well, if I will probably tell you how old I am, but my parents were admired the Kennedys. You know, Jacqueline Kennedy was a wonderful supporter of the arts, and we have the Kennedy Center in Washington. And John F. Kennedy spoke incredibly beautifully about the importance of the arts. He said, among other things, that the soul of a country lies in its appreciation and its nurturing of artistic expression. That we could be the richest, most powerful country in the world, but if we don't have value or support artistic expression, it is worthless. The power and the money means nothing if we don't have the ability to participate in the nurturing of the human spirit, because the human spirit is what in turn is going to make the country better.
Yes.
Right?
True.
And I always looked at Europe as a continent obviously rich in culture and art. It is the cradle of civilization, Western art. And I am rather surprised to see that this trend is pervading in European countries, as you mentioned. And it should not be that way.
No.
Right?
Exactly. And I think the more, you know, the emphasis is always on, as like you say, you know, to get into university, you have to have maths and science, or you have to have, even in Europe, you know, there are schools, if you want to go to elite schools, then you have to be good in maths. And I think that should change, that we don't, it's, the appreciation for art will only come when children are taught art in school, and not, you know, the more we say art lessons or music lessons should be after school, or should be, you know, on one day a week, we are actually teaching that mentality to a generation, you know, not to make art important. And I think yeah, I'm very passionate to talk about this, and to think that there could be a solution for us if we start talking about this. You know, if we start, you know, just starting this conversation to say that, and this has to come from artists as well, I think. Because we have to also, not just for children's development, but also for future audiences. You know, so.
Well, I will tell you what I think. There is an artist in every one of us.
Exactly.
Every human being has the potential for creativity. And it is important that that aspect of our lives be nurtured in some way. And so I say, each individual must take responsibility to at least nurture that ability. If you have a passion for drawing, for example, practice it, cultivate the craft, have a piece of paper and pen or pencil or coloring of some sort, and each day do something with it that's beautiful and inspiring. Every one of us has the opportunity and the ability to grow and to practice a craft, an artistic endeavor. And if each of us nurture that even a little bit every day, then I think the world would be a lot better, don't you think?
Definitely, no, definitely. I do think if this is why I'm saying it's we have to start with our children and we have to give them this opportunity, because also a way of expressing themselves, that's very important, I think, because not every child will become a mathematician or a scientist, and not every child will become a musician or an artist as in a painter or a dancer, but at least give them this exposure, and not every family has this insight to do this for their children, or to take, and not every family has the financial ability to do this for their children, because that's also a thing, for children to go to music lessons is not cheap, and for families who are on, really living on the breadline, it's not possible. But if we could do this in education and give them this opportunity, I think every child should have this opportunity to at least for the first years of their school life have the exposure to art, so that they can make the choices and decide if they want to pursue it, or or at least if we could see the potential in the child to pursue it.
I think the financial situation of a particular family, particular nuclear in society, community, should not be a deterrent for the passion of a child to be inspired and to be endorsed, so they can maximize it. My family was not rich. I was not born wealthy, but I was born with a tremendous thirst for music. And I did everything on my own. But I did have my parents' wholehearted support in everything I did. Anything I chose to do, they supported me. They loved me, and they allowed me to do. So it's very important, obviously, that adults assume the responsibility of motivating a child to pursue that which the child is passionate about artistically. And no particular amount of wealth is necessary in the early stages of a child's artistic development. They can draw on a piece of paper. They can make a musical instrument with wood or they can choose an instrument. They might not have the money to purchase a violin, for example, or a piano, but they can create an instrument.
Mm.
And that is the beginning. What matters is that they see that passion is an outlet is created for them, and that it is supported by the family.
That's the thing is that that's supported, that they you know, that there's somebody to support this child, or to help, or to at least give you know, a stepping stone to go further. And I think when we do this in schools, then there's so much more than the opportunities that the children could have, where, you know, if they maybe not come from a family where the parents support this, or could help, or could you know, find a way to let them do music, then at least the schools are there to do, you know, to give them this opportunity.
And there's so much more, you know, in this world than being accepted by the most elite schools.
Exactly.
And becoming wealthy, developing wealth, and having your life transformed by material possessions. We must learn to find the value in the spiritual enrichment that the arts brings us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think educators obviously have that as the responsibility. It is all about how you look at the problem. I've always been a positive thinking individual. There are no barriers, there are no obstacles that I cannot overcome. And I have told this to many of my students, believe me. I am reaching, you know, the last 50 years of my life, perhaps, hopefully. But I still have dreams. I have a lot to do still.
Yeah.
And that should be inspiring to young people.
Well,
wonderful. So many wonderful musicians. Sorry, you know, accomplish so much at a later age in their life.
Well, I live on cloud 9, and here everything is also possible.
Oh, bien, you are. I so wish I were there. You know, when I think that when I landed in Vienna in 2018, I may have kissed the ground.
Really?
Imagine the where Beethoven and Mozart and Schubert lived and died. And one of the first things I did was take my student and his father to Central Friedhof to see the graveside of Beethoven and Schubert. And Mozart he's no, of course we know that he is not really buried there. Have you been?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, you must go. It is so awe-inspiring. You enter this, it is not very easy to find because it is immense. But there they are, Beethoven to the left, and Schubert, it's a circle. It's Beethoven and Schubert to his left. Brahms is on the other side. And in the middle is a monument to Mozart. And they're not the only ones. You have the Strauss family. You have many of the great composers who lived and worked in Vienna that make that wonderful city proud.
Yeah.
And a center for music.
Mm.
So I really cannot wait to go back.
Well, I must say this is also what fascinated me about these pictures that I took from the artists. That I realized how many many musicians and also dancers, they come to Vienna. I mean, musicians, so many young musicians here come to the university. So I find, I found that's also very fascinating. That it's this place where it seems to they want to come to, or they want to study, or this is lovely.
I have many wonderful musician friends living in Vienna, and I know I can tell you of an entire family who moved back to Vienna because they missed the music, they missed the arts, they missed the artistic life and the culture of the city. And Vienna has a great history of being a center for culture and arts from a very long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that it continues to be so. Many great centers for art in the world have had their apogee, the time where they have flourished the most. And then you see another city take over, so to speak, until pretty much the beginning of the 20th century. Centers for art in my country, in the United States, there weren't that many, if any. And then New York began to flourish. And New York has continued to be a great center for musicians and artists. And fortunately, I have many wonderful friends in New York who are unfortunately going through the same thing that we are all going through right now, but more so because they're full-time performers. And it just is terrible. It's terrible. But back to the cities, then there is Paris. Paris was the city in the world to go to for music and arts in the first part of the 19th century, especially, where you had the great romantic writers, the composers, Chopin, Liszt, the great Dumas brothers, Berlioz. They all lived and worked in Paris. And then, of course, at the same time that in Vienna, you had Mozart and then Beethoven and Schubert, and that continued into the early 20th century with the second Viennese school, Arnold Schoenberg, and the artists, musicians who later, unfortunately, because of the circumstances of the wars, emigrated to the United States.
Oh, okay.
You see? So we were the recipients in the first half of the 20th century of an immigration of great artistic and musical minds. We were very lucky. We had Stravinsky moved to the United States. Rachmaninoff moved to the United States. George Balanchine, the Russian choreographer.
Yeah.
All the arts, many wonderful artists moved to the US because of the war. And Vienna has continued to always produce and attract musicians especially, I would have to say, an artist, correct?
Yeah.
How is Vienna with the visual art? Is it as strong a center of the visual arts and the as we call it, the plastic arts, sculpture, and as it is for music? I don't know.
I'm not sure also. I don't know. Yeah. But I do think yeah, it's therefore very tragic that all the theaters are still closed. You know, for Vienna, I think this is. I've read somewhere that around 10,000 people per night used to visit the theaters in Vienna, and I do think it is. You know, it's the city is very different now, also because we are. You know, we receive many tourists who come to these theaters. You know, I don't know what the percentage is, but I can assume it's a very high percentage of people who come for the music and come for the theaters and the art. So yeah, this is why it is really very tragic that everything is still not able to function. And I know also that the theaters do their best and they try really to, you know, to find a solution how they could do it. But yeah, still it's just not possible. But Gerardo, tell me, what is your wish for when this is all over?
My wish for when the pandemic is over is that the entire world learns to live in greater harmony. I find that the pandemic has unfortunately created division among people. And I want all those colleagues of mine who make music for a living to go back to work. Obviously, that's it. But I think that the division has to stop, because only when humanity is closer together, then we can fight crises like these better and put an end to them. Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's hope that things will get better this summer. I am really hoping to make it to Vienna to play my concert on July 29th.
I hope
And I
so
will
for
send you,
you too.
I'm going to
Yes.
send you an invitation. I want to go out for schnitzel afterwards.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
But really, I think it's extremely important that we all work together to fight this and to do what is sensible in order to end. Everything is possible in this world. And with determination, perseverance, and discipline, we can beat this, right?
Definitely. But I think the artists are the dreamers of the world, and you are the proof that dreams come true. Because I think every artist dream constantly of things, like you for the concert. You know, you are constantly seeing something happen, and you have lots of hope and I think this is great. You know, this is positive, and this is what we need to hear now. And we need these messages of hope. And I mean, I ask all the artists I speak to what their wishes are future, and they are all very, very positive, wonderful wishes, and I believe we should express our wishes as well, so that
Well,
they.
here's an artistic wish. I think that the focus should be on the continuation of our work.
Mm.
Every day we have a tremendous legacy and of wonderful music and works of art to cultivate, to sit down and examine our own artistic ideals.
Mm.
And if we continue to work, regardless of whether we have a concert scheduled in the future or whether that concert is canceled, the work is there for us to do. One way or another, we will continue our work. And when the crisis is over, it will be a renaissance.
Mm.
Because then we will be able to share it with the world in person, which is the way it was meant to be shared. Right now, we can only do it mostly online, and there are many wonderful musicians who are already performing for live audiences with careful protocols. But I think that the focus for musicians, artists, students, and practitioners of the arts, especially the performing arts, must be in continuing to hone their craft, cultivate your talent, cultivate your work. There's plenty to be done.
That's wonderful advice as well. Yeah, that's true. Because I think also we will see different. I cannot imagine that people come out of this unchanged, and as you say, yeah.
Every day I sit down at the piano to work on Beethoven sonatas. I find something new. This music is greater than it can be played by human hands.
Mm.
So I see it as trying to find all the facets of a beautiful diamond. You take a beautiful diamond, a beautiful jewel, and you see many different facets, many different aspects, and it's endless. And that is what our art is. And so I don't see any possibility that we could uh, stop discovering, stop learning. We cannot stop learning. There's always something new to be learned
Mm.
from art.